Underrated. So we found out that JJ McCarthy, this College Sports Wire, USA Today, we saw that he was ranked number 9 QB in the country based on, I believe it was last year's QBR is what they used as the rankings there to determine. So I've heard 9 in a couple of places. I believe even Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers, I think he put him at 9. So I'm thinking, after you get Caleb and you get, maybe you put Michael Penix up there, but I'm trying to fill 3 to 9 out to eventually get to JJ's 9. I'm thinking to myself, I just don't, I think he's going to surprise people this year. I really do. What do you think?
I think a lot of those guys that are ranking it might just look at his jersey number and say, hey, let's put him at number 9. Now, I think you can make a case. I'm not going to bash people that make their lists. I know how difficult it is, but I do think if you are putting together a list and you're using Pro Football Focus and you look at JJ McCarthy, you're like, I might think JJ McCarthy might be a top 5 quarterback. And then you start looking at Pro Football Focus, you're like, wait a second, they don't have him in the top 10. They don't have him in the top 20. They don't have him in the top 50. I don't think they had him in the top 100 last year when you go through and you look at JJ McCarthy. And so you understand that the numbers are not there, and Pro Football Focus, they don't like them. And Michigan's identity was their running game. And if I'm going to be honest, if I looked at last year, and JJ played well in a number of games, so this is not anything against him, but I think they really only needed him. I think Cade McNamara could have taken Michigan undefeated into the Ohio State game, but I think the 2.5 quarters against Ohio State, he played great football. And still in that game, I don't remember who the writer was for CBS, but it was in this off season. He was ranking the quarterbacks, and he said that, McCarthy didn't have a good game that game. Well, if you look at just the stat line, his completion percentage was 50%. So you look at that, and then the other time that you probably watched him was in the college football semifinal where he threw the 2 pick sixes. And I can see why people, would be down on him. But you mentioned him. Caleb Williams, I'm going to take in front of JJ McCarthy. And I'm
anybody.
Michael Penix Jr. all the way back to Indiana. The first time I saw him spinning the ball, I'm like, that guy's an NFL quarterback. And, I would put him, but I think Drake May's got a little Trubisky vibe to me. I don't know if he's ever beat anybody that's any good. Every time I watch him, whether it's against Oregon or the last 4 games of the year, NC State, they lose every game that he plays. So I know that he's got all the measurables and they love him and everything else, but I'll take JJ McCarthy in front of Drake May. I looked at that list. The guy at Kansas was a great story, Daniels and everything, but I'm not going to take Daniels over JJ McCarthy. Frank Harris, I can't say that I've watched him play, the kid from Texas.
I haven't,
something. So I wouldn't know him if he walked up, slapped me in the face, but
right.
What can I say? I'm going to take him over JJ McCarthy, and I've seen enough of Bo Nix. I'm not making that deal either. So I think JJ's in the top 5, and because of those things, he doesn't throw the ball. He only threw the ball over 30 times, 3 times last year, not much. And so he's normally the pass attempts are down, and he really didn't start clicking with a downfield passing game until the Ohio State game. In fact, he was missing guys, let's say left and right, but when they did take some shots during the year, that was an obvious hole in his game. He wasn't putting the ball on the receiver. He started getting it against Ohio State. He did it in the Big Ten championship game. And then, whatever you want to say about TCU, the 2 pick sixes were terrible. He was throwing it around pretty good after that and a little bit before some of that, but I'll put him in the top 5 if I'm making a ranking. And you'll say, well, you work for the Maize and Blue Review. And I'll say, all right, that's fair. But I just walked through all those other guys. I think Travis from Florida State, he's an interesting one. I might put him in front of McCarthy. And I didn't see in their top 10 the quarterback from LSU, Jaden Daniels. I like him. I think I would put him in my top 5 over a lot of those guys that they had. So I would have a different top 5 than the guy from CBS Sports. And I can't wait to that first weekend when LSU plays Florida State, because you are going to have Jordan Travis and Jaden Daniels. A lot of people are going to say, hey, these guys are underrated, whoever ends up winning that game, whatever quarterback does.
Most likely. Yeah, it's always a little easier to do that when you win.